to David's mother while we were on vacation many years ago. He said, I think it would make a good musical. Have you ever heard someone fall off their chair? I said, what? And so it's been quite a journey. After the war, I didn't speak much about my childhood because not only was I a survivor, a child survivor, but my father lost his entire family and never wanted to talk about it. And my mother also lost many people. So they always said, let's look to the future, let's not look back, it's too sad, c'est trop triste. And they had lived in Germany literally for generations until Hitler came to power. So little by little, I realized that there were a lot of deniers out there, and my children were going to college, being faced with these lies, and they were authentic books that looked published by God knows who, that the Holocaust never happened, it's vastly exaggerated. Well, that's when something snapped in me. And at the very same time, Nora Levin, who started the oral archives at Gratz College, called me and said, I'm interested in interviewing you because I want to know what happened to the children. When in those days, we children didn't consider ourselves survivors. I mean, there's nothing worse than a camp experience. So, you know, especially someone like me who was able to survive, said, no, I want to know what happened to the children. I'm very interested. So she came over, asked me many, many questions, and I couldn't answer them. All the questions she asked. So I realized that I had to reconstitute my childhood. So a little bit, and this was in the mid-'80s, I would say. And Barry still works at the Oral Archives, transcribing some of these oral testimonies that were recorded by Nora Levin. Unfortunately, Gratz College didn't have the funds to enlarge it, and now the largest repository of Holocaust testimonies, I think, are at Yale University. But I think that Gratz has how many of them?
About 800 of them. They're being distributed to the Holocaust Museum in Washington and to
Yad Vashem in Jerusalem. So mine is one of the first testimonies, actually.
Wow.
And even though I couldn't even answer some. So then a former student of mine called me a few years after that and said, would you write me a recommendation, because I'd like to write a novel about a young man who was a hidden child in Nazi-occupied France. I didn't talk about my childhood in those days. And she had already graduated from college. She majored in creative writing and minored in history. And I would like to go to France to, it's going to be a historical novel, but I want the historical background to be accurate. I said, of course I write you a recommendation. I had written all her recommendations for college. But you probably don't know that I was a hidden child in Nazi-occupied France. And here, this was in her creative mind.
Wow.
Wow, so we sat down and talked. And she needed a grant, and she got the grant. And my parents were still living at the time. They were in their 80s. And while they never opened up to me, they opened up to her. So she was able to retrace our steps, because my mother told her exactly, where she ran from one place to another, sometimes just seconds to go from one place to another. So the book came out first in 1993, and then it was picked up by Oxford University Press, and I have some books here, and I'll certainly donate them to our wonderful hosts and hostess. But if you want some, you can also have them. After all, you're supporting this wonderful cause. So, and it's called Your Name is Renee, because I had to change my name from Ruth to Renee. They are very, very few. Oh, he doesn't like it.
Somebody's coming. It's very excited. Yeah. He's a good alarm dog. Yeah.
That's good. So, yes, so it was published, and that's when David's mother, I gave it to David's mother.
You were saying about your name, you said there were very, very few.
Oh, there are very few accounts written in the voice of the child. And my account is written in the voice of the child. And I was adamant. I wanted my children to understand, and now my grandchildren, two of them. And so there are very, very few accounts like that. So maybe that's why Jenny was so inspired when she first read it. So the rest is history. So it's been a long, cathartic, surprising, and amazing journey for me, which, as I said, first resulted in the publishing of my memoir, and then the musical. It was performed last year, and David and Jenny said, you know, we are creative, we are musicians, we're very creative, we may take some liberties with your actual story, but we will always consult you, we will always make sure that you approve of what we do. And each time they wrote a song, they would consult me about it. And by the way, in 2019, when Jenny first approached me, we decided to meet in France. We happened to go to France. Jenny and David's parents have a house in France. His mother still is there right now.
Yes,
Yes.
I know.
So we met in France, where I was hidden, because I stayed in touch with my rescuers all these years. They're incredible people. So they were able to see every place I was, including at the end, what was then a convent, an orphanage, and interviewed some of the survivors' descendants. And one rescuer was still alive, the young girl who took care of me, who took me to school during the war. She was still alive in 2019. She passed away in 2021. Then the pandemic hit. So David and Jenny couldn't perform all over the place like they do all the time, and they wrote the musical during the pandemic. 30 plus songs, I think.
Yeah.
And
Now there's less.
but what I wanted to say, and that's why I wrote it down so I won't be flustered about it, is now in the autumn of my life, to see my childhood experience come to life like that and performed in such a meaningful way is incredibly rewarding for me. And I can't thank them enough, really. So my story has gone from one who was hidden for many, many years to Hidden the musical. Quite a journey. Thank you very much.